Welcome to another episode of OG 55. I got Tones TV in the house, Evan and Jay Shear. We are talking about all the movies like right now, that summer box office, Toy Story. We're talking Obsession. We're talking He-Man. We're talking Mando and Grogu. We're talking all of it. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Tones, Evan, Jay Shear in the house. OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. Today, we're talking all about the summer box office. These movies, a lot of interesting stuff going on here with the films being released. Before we dive right in, Mr. Tones Poppy is in the house. Tones, always good having you on, brother. How are you today, sir?
Yeah, we need to stop making these shows that I come on like every other month. We need to be on here a lot more. I miss you guys, man. But yeah,
Yes.
everything's good. We've been doing a lot of House of the Dragon stuff. I forgot to tell you guys, you gentlemen, but after the episode of House of the Dragon, something happens to a character, and that character, his name is Harry Collette. The actor, came into my live and said hi to everyone, and it was insane, bro. I just thought about this right now as we were talking about it. He came into the live saying he loves us and he thanks us for watching the show. Amazing stuff that we do over there. So make sure you guys come check it out. Tones_TV on TikTok. And then we're going to ramp up on the YouTube as well. So check it out.
That is awesome, Tones. Everybody, if you're watching House of the Dragon, you got to check out Tones. TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff, Instagram, doing great content in regards to House of the Dragon. No one does Game of Thrones content like Mr. Tones Poppy. So check him out, subscribe to him, show him all the love. Evan, it's been way too long. How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I love the summer season. It's been fantastic. I gotta catch up on Tone stuff because I'm a huge fan of House of the Dragon. You know, people were crapping on that show. I never went on that side. People were really crapping on House of the Dragon. I'm like, stay over there. Yeah. I'm having a great time. But yeah, this summer has been fantastic. Watching tons of movies, tons of TV shows. I'm having a blast, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Evan, where can everybody find you on social media? I know you do a lot of Twitter, but you also do a lot of a lot of content on YouTube. Where can everybody find you?
Exactly. If I'm on Twitter, Harris EV9. I got a lot of heat this morning because I woke up at 6 a.m. and I got a lot of heat for my GTA takes. You know, they're being ridiculous over there. But anyways, for other content on YouTube, just search in Nathan Rojas. We do My Cup of Tea videos. We do box office videos. We just did a commentary of Superman yesterday. I also have another podcast called Where Heartbreak Feels Good. And we also had a whole nearly 2-hour discussion about House of the Dragon. Some of the reactions to that last episode. My friend reads the books. I told myself I was going to read the book, but I never did. You know, it's been 2 years. I'm sorry. But then we talked about some of the book changes as well. So, yeah, a lot of great talks.
I might have to check that out.
Yeah. Check it out. And everybody, I'll be linking all that in the description down below. So make sure you support Evan 1000%. And last but certainly not least, the one, the only, Mr. Jay Shear.
It's good to be here. It's been way too long. Everyone always thinks that when Jared Lee from Capture the Magic and I are not on the same show, they confuse me and think that I'm him. So I'm just going to say a bunch of stuff that Jared wouldn't agree with, and then you associate it with him, and it'd be perfect. Starting with Baby Grogu is the best. He hates Grogu so much. Anyway, yeah, it's good to be here. I don't know. This is not a Story Geeks podcast, and we haven't done a Story Geeks podcast in like, I don't know how many years it's been, OG, like a year at least.
I think so.
But yeah, it is the official 10-year anniversary of the Story Geeks podcast. So
yes.
Even though we haven't done one in a really long time. So special thanks to OG and the crew for letting us do Story Geeks on this channel. And it's good to see Evan again. Always good to see Tones.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to getting into this.
Absolutely. We got to do maybe like sometime soon. I don't want to put you on the spot, Jay, but like sometime soon we should do like a 10-year anniversary. Like,
oh, dude, I want to. In fact, my co-host that I started with also want to do that. But I'm in the middle of pre-production on another short film, and I'm like, just like right after this, we're gonna go do callbacks for auditions. So like, It's just too inundated with stuff to be able to get it. But I would love to do that. That'd be so fun.
Yeah. Whenever you get some free time, just hit me up. Let me know. You know me. I'm always down. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about this. Okay, so Obsession is like the talk of everything right now, right? I mean, this movie was on like a shoestring budget, and it's making all the money.
750K. Yeah, 750K.
Dude, that is insane. That is
Yep.
absolutely insane. I'll start with you, Evan. What are your thoughts on this, man? This thing has really taken off, dude.
This is fantastic. That's what I'd love to see. Big original movies, not even big, small scale original movies doing well. And we've seen this throughout this decade in particular. Every year, a big original film has your like breakout. Last year, it was Sinners. And granted, Sinners was more of a big blockbuster from Coogler. But if it's his own idea, it's his own thing. And everybody went to go see it, horror in particular. Then before that, we had The Substance, which was a big hit and stuff like that. And then Barbie, all kind of stuff, that kind of an IP kind of thing. But I'm very excited about this. I do a box office predictions video, and we were talking about Obsession, and I'm like, this looks really good. This looks cool. I didn't see any trailer for it, so I'm going in blind. I love a good horror movie. I was like, this is gonna make like 20 million, whatever. But Backrooms, that's gonna be huge. That's gonna be huge. Granted, Backrooms is huge, but Obsession is even bigger than that, and it's doing like historic numbers on the dailies, weekend to weekend. Like its fourth weekend, right, it was like bigger than its first weekend, something like that. Incredible work there. I'm so happy. This, especially for a movie like this. Like this is my probably second or third favorite movie of the year so far. I love the movie. I've seen it twice now. I just saw it like last week, and it's still like a packed theater. It was insane.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. No, Jay, this started off as, if I'm not mistaken, a YouTube thing.
Well, actually, Backrooms started more as the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Like the
Oh,
channel
gotcha,
was
okay.
actually about the Backrooms concept.
But Obsession,
not so much, but it's
Okay.
but it's still YouTubers, right?
Gotcha.
We've had 3 films already this year, made by YouTubers that have all done well, have all performed well. So you had Markiplier's film Iron Lung earlier in the year. You had Backrooms, Kane Parsons, and then you had Curry Barker. Is it Barker or Baker? I always get it wrong.
I think Barker.
Yeah,
I think
Barker.
it's Barker, yeah.
Curry Barker.
So Curry Barker, who I've always thought was hilarious in his skits. I didn't realize he was going to put out a horror movie, which does have some really good comedy in it. I think what's interesting about talking about Obsession, though, is I think that Hollywood will likely learn the wrong lessons from it. Because if you track, this is what I think the most interesting part of this thing is that like, I think there's 2 interesting conversations about Obsession. I don't know if we want to get into both of them, but
Sure.
Hollywood's going to learn the wrong lessons, and then people don't understand how filmmaking and profit work. like these are the 2 kind of conversations that are going around that I think people are going to not really fully understand. But on the Hollywood side, you have Iron Lung, you have Backrooms, and you have Obsession. All of them do really, really well. I think what Hollywood is going to learn from this is, we can go take people who have millions of followers.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll do next, is find the people with millions of followers to make films. I think that that's actually the wrong lesson to learn. It's actually what Evan was already saying. It's original people with original ideas. But Hollywood's going to go, that's too risky. I can't just take Tones sends me a script. I'm not going to make Tones' movie just because, right? They're going
I'll make his movie though. Tell
Damn it.
Yeah, you should though. Well, and that's the point, is like how like they're going to start looking at follower counts to make the decision about whether or not they should greenlight something. And I guarantee you that we're going to see a bunch of shitty movies from YouTubers, because they're going to go look at follower counts and they're going to go, all of these guys are good at making, and gals, all of them are good at making films. No, they're not. These happen to be amazing filmmakers who also happen to have a bunch of followers. So I think Hollywood's going to take the wrong lesson from.
Can I ask you a quick question about that, Jay?
Sure.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the feature film that was made for Obsession was the one thing that made everyone go crazy over it, because of the amount of, I guess, awards it got through the festival circuits, and they were bidding off of this movie, and then that's when they made it a little bit bigger budget to make the full film. Now, do you think that played any part, or a bigger part than his followers? Or do you
Well,
think
the way I understand how this film was sold, which is a really good question, like how was this film sold? And I've listened to several podcasts talking about this already because they were talking about it from the other question I was referring to, which is like how
Okay.
people get paid, right? And they were trying to assess it from that. So I'm not aware of there being a proof of concept for Obsession. They made it for 750K. They did take it on the festival circuit. It did get a lot of attention and had a bidding war associated with it. So let's just talk about what that looks like really quickly, just so that you can get a kind of a feel for that. So there's multiple ways to go out and make films and sell films. One, let's just say you guys are all investors and I'm the filmmaker. I go to you guys give me money. I go make a film. I don't have a distribution deal. I don't have, any kind of like studio backing. All it is the four of us deciding that we're going to go make a movie and hope that it turns out to make us money. Just for a frame of reference, 90% of the time, we are going to all lose money off an independent film like that, right? That's just how the marketplace works. So because if we make this film and we don't sell it to a distributor or we don't sell it to a studio or we don't sell it, if it doesn't get distribution, it's going to be very hard for us to make money unless it was made for a really, really low budget. Like Markiplier, for example. Markiplier did not have distribution. He went and called theaters. And he had to prove to them that people would show up and buy tickets. So he would actually tell them, like, "Hey, I have a website where I'm selling tickets for your theater." I think this is the way he did it. He did an experiment basically and said, "I can get it like 300 people to buy tickets." And they said, "Okay, cool, we'll show your film." So he did his own distribution, which is unheard of because distribution is one of the most difficult things in Hollywood to get right. And it's very difficult to make negotiations. You can think of all the theater owners and stuff that you have to have conversations with. So, so what my understanding is that there was a bidding war for Obsession. It was purchased from the team that made it, which is usually the producers, of which Curry Barker was one, I believe. And then it was sold for $15 million, right?
Gotcha.
So once it's sold for $15 million, then the people who purchased it, I can't remember off the top of my head who purchased it now. But anyways, yes, it was Blumhouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were going to take that and then they were going to do distribution for it. So that's why it got into so many theaters and then it just took off.
Gotcha.
From there.
Okay. Yeah, I was mistaken that. I thought they did a feature film first and then did the full film. But they did the
short film first.
Yeah, short film first. Yeah.
I don't know if they did or not, but I do know that those guys are very, very successful in narrative storytelling. Usually it's on the comedy side. Yeah. And I think that they're very funny. Like I started watching their videos a while back and I was like, these guys are really, really funny.
Hilarious.
But I don't know anything about them doing a short first. I hadn't heard that, but this is what the film that I was talking about, with you guys before we started filming, like the one I'm going to do auditions for, we're doing auditions for, that is a proof of concept. I don't know if they did a proof of concept or not, but proof of concept is a good idea if you want investors to have confidence in you. So
yeah, I remember this movie getting like not headlines, but I remember hearing about it last fall when it got screened at the festivals. I think it went to like Beyond Fest in California where they do a lot of like horror movies. I think that's around like October-ish, November-ish. They do like Beyond Fest. You're like, oh, see how it fares. And I think Blumhouse came on late because I remember people were complaining about how Jason Blum got paid like millions of dollars and he just had like, he came on the last minute. It was like, oh, I like your movie. And then it blew up from there.
Wow.
But yeah, I remember hearing about this late in the game. People were like, oh, it's the best movie of 2025. I'm like, it hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, it just blew up at the perfect time.
Yeah, and that's the side of it that's also getting attention is like who should make the money off this film, right?
Exactly.
And that's the part where people don't really understand. There's not enough. It's a fairly complex marketplace, the film marketplace, and what most people don't understand is that if you take 10 films, this is also true of startup companies, which is why I kind of have a familiarity with how it works. But if you take 10 films, the people backing those films expect that 8 of them will lose money. 1 of them will hopefully break even, and the other one will be successful enough to cover their other losses. So what happens is people think to themselves like, okay, well, whoever bought it for 15 million is going to make just gobs of money. And yes, they are going to make gobs of money. That's actually accurate. But the problem is that like if you buy a movie for $15 million, you have no guarantee of earning any money at all. It can just completely bomb at the theaters for any number of reasons. And so the best deals have like back end payment for people who were involved in it, and that's really cool. But you've got to take the viewpoint of the people who are investing in those 10 films. We want them to keep investing in 10 films, by the way, because if I still want to make a film even if it doesn't make money. I want it to make money. Let's be honest. But like, if it doesn't make money, I still want a chance to make a film. Yep. Well, the problem is if you say, well, investors are only going to invest in films that make money. That's how you get 5 Toy Stories, right? Like, so it's one of those things where it's like, what tends to be rewarded are the people who take the most amount of risk, and in this case, whoever bought it for 15 technically took a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes, because let's put it this way: if the film didn't make any money at all, then the team who earned the money on the who earned the 15 million. Then they would be the highest earners in this situation, right? So it's just a very complex way of looking at things, and I think a lot of people, there's been a lot of publicity about people who worked on the film talking about how they didn't get paid enough and they're not getting back end deals, and unfortunately, that's a bummer. But it also is not really the way that the marketplace works. And there have been other models that have tried to get around that and some are successful. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have an artist equity deal where they actually try to make the artists owners of the film so that they all get compensated when that film gets sold. So there are some really interesting business models around that. But you do have to take into account, like, well, who's taking on all this risk? Because it's usually not the person who worked the daily job, unfortunately. It's usually somebody else who took the most amount of risk.
Yeah. Now, Tones, have you seen Obsession?
Oh, absolutely.
And what'd you think?
I thought the movie was the best movie of the year so far. And when I say I'm not a huge fan of horror films, it's not that I don't like them. There's just certain films that have turned me off because the storyline was just not good. And so I'm hesitant to see horror films. And even though technically this was a horror film, it wasn't like this slasher kind of horror, which I was kind of expecting at first, but the storyline was so unique, so different from what we're used to. And most low budget films, you could see the difference between, those and a high budget film. This one, don't get me wrong, it wasn't shot in with the best of the best, but you can barely tell on certain aspects because they didn't focus more on what was seen on screen. It was more of they did in a way, but the storyline was their main focus and how it was portrayed. And some of these characters, like the sudden movements is what scared me in this movie by Nikki. The sudden movements is what gave me the chills in this movie, and I haven't had the chills like that in a while when it comes to a horror film. But I went to the movies. There was maybe 5 people in the movie theater, and it was week 2. And don't get me wrong, I live in a rural area, so there's not really not many people out here. But at the same time, everyone who left the movie theater was in shock of how great the movie was. And kind of what Jay was saying, Curry Barker is he does a lot of comedy skits on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever the case is. But watching him do what he did was just insane to see, because it was I think it was his first movie he's directed, and it was just blew everyone's socks off. It was amazing to watch. And another thing, I even texted Jay this after I left the movie. I was like, there's a thing going on with a lot of comedy skit, people who do comedy skits are now making horror films. Curry Barker, then Jordan Peele, like people like that are making great films, but they're known for their comedy. And it's cool to see that people are transitioning to different genres, even though they're known for something else, especially when it comes to comedy. Comedy people, they're always in a comedy movie. You hardly see them in even though they're directing it, but you only see them in a comedy movie, which is unfortunate because you can't see their true, range when it comes to an actor. But I thought the movie was great. It was one of the best movies I've seen this year, and it was under $1 million, which is just unheard of. And I think it's at 30 million now that it's made in the box office. and it's already about to come on streaming services on the
It's
30th.
actually way higher than that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up.
Or
It's like
300. I'm sorry, 300 million.
300. Yeah,
300
yeah.
million.
Add an extra zero there.
Yeah.
300 million. I'm sorry. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's doing banger numbers. Go ahead, Tones.
it's just insane. Like it's grossed more than Scary Movie, Masters of the Universe, which 57 million was the. Well, how much was the movie? The budget for Masters of Universe. Masters of the
We'll
Universe.
get to that. Yeah.
I mean, it's just making way on this chart, and it's cool to see because I got to admit I'm tired of the same IPs going to the movie theaters and talking about the same thing every single time. Avengers, don't get me wrong, Avengers was fun to talk about, but to a certain point, it's just like I know we got more to talk about when it comes to Avengers going forward with Doomsday coming out, but it's just good to talk about something that was done by people who wanted it to do well, and they sure in the help made it that way on screen.
I love it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, what's so fascinating is that we talk about risk, and I think for Hollywood, in terms of taking the wrong lessons, it's so fascinating that for risk and like what could be happening in the future, this can only really, in my opinion, happen with horror movies. Horror as a genre is something, or at least like just horror as a genre is something that you're able to do for a very low budget.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time we heard like a studio take a risk on a rom-com that didn't go to streaming? Right, like
Right.
or like like a hardcore drama, like you see those like at your Cannes Film Festival or whatever. People hardly go to see those. I'm happy that the drama with Robert Pattinson and Zendaya did well, but that was like because you had Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. But like it's very hard to take a risk on like original dramas or especially original action unless you're like from out of the States. Like horror really is the only genre that people are willing to take big risks on because you can do it for such a low budget. And that's why for the last couple of years now, horror has just been not revitalized, but just been having the biggest appeal at the box office for original movies. And hopefully studios can take what we're learning from obsession from horror movies, because we're going to see this again in terms of like a big horror breakout hit. It's going to happen. It happens every year. But I want it to happen in other genres. Like, I'm a huge rom-com guy. I got to go on Netflix or Prime Video for some good rom-coms. It sucks. I'm a huge sci-fi guy, but it's literally impossible to create like a great original sci-fi unless you're like Spielberg, who had one last week, or like Denis Villeneuve or whatever. Like you have to have a big director do an original sci-fi. You can't have like a low budget person do a low budget sci-fi.
Can I ask a quick question? And Jay probably would be the best one to answer this. We're seeing these low budget films do well, and these original ideas, like everyone was talking about, are becoming something that people want to see. Do you think it's more of not these studios not making the risk to make these stories that are original come to life and put it on the big screen? Because I feel like there's a lot of original that we haven't seen because we keep seeing the repeating IPs. Do you think it's the studios not taking that risk is why we're not being able to see some of them?
A little bit. I have actually a bigger theory about this, and I would be really interested in what OG and Evan think about this too. I actually feel like the systemic issues in the generational change, changes over time, have created a really big problem for Gen X and millennial filmmakers. And now we're seeing Gen Z sort of break out of the normal mode, and we're seeing a disruption happen. So, for example, the last major disruption we had really in the marketplace was going all the way back to the Steven Spielbergs of the world, the Martin Scorsese's of the world, the
Quentin Tarantino's.
Yeah, well, Tarantino is actually an exception to the rule, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because all of these other guys were boomers, right? And they said, we want Hollywood to look different. And they started making it look different.
Gotcha.
Then studios started getting behind that way of filmmaking And then rather than like finding new filmmakers, Tarantino's the exception there because they did find Tarantino. He's a Gen Xer. They kind of just kept repeating the same thing over and over and over, and it going like, hey, this is how we maximize revenue from the audience in this regard. But if you look, it's hard to find Gen X and millennial filmmakers that are as popular as some of the and if they are popular, like a Christopher Nolan, he didn't really break the mold. He just rose to the top given the mold that already existed. I think what you're seeing finally now is you're seeing Gen Z go, you know what? We don't need to use the existing infrastructure that was created 3 generations ago. We can use a different infrastructure and be disruptive to the process. So you're seeing things like we can start on YouTube and start like getting popular on YouTube before we actually break out into the marketplace. So I think because we're seeing that in almost every industry, right? Like it's now finally you're starting to see Gen X and millennials take over organizations. But for the longest time, boomers were holding on to those CEO type positions. And that was true. It's as true in the studio system as it is anywhere else. And so I feel like we just had this generation keeping the reins of power for a really long period of time and repeating the playbook. And I think we just saw the playbook get repeated to the point where we actually had to see Hollywood take a giant dive revenue-wise and box office-wise before we're starting to see it actually build itself back up. But it's building itself back up in a different way than we'd seen it. You take the movies we're going to talk about Mandalorian and Grogu. We've already talked about Disclosure Day, and then you have Obsession. Well, Disclosure Day is probably not going to be that profitable. Mandalorian and Grogu is the weakest performing Star Wars, which is, again, a George Lucas legacy IP.
Right.
So you're having to see someone completely break the mold in order to be able to take over the existing infrastructure. So I think that's actually the biggest problem is that you have the same people making decisions over the last 30 to 40 years, as opposed to these people make decisions for a decade, then these people make decisions for a decade, then these people make decisions for a decade. And I think that's the biggest problem, in my personal opinion.
Well, and that's an interesting point. And actually, I want to lump in here Masters of the Universe, because actually we're going to talk about it anyway. I might as well bring it up now. I think that's a big issue with that movie, where it's this like older millennial.
Oh, your mic.
Yeah, my mic cut out. Sorry about that. He-Man is this older millennial kind of like Gen X franchise, right? And people now are not, the younger generation, they're not embracing it. It's flopping. It's dying a dog's death at the box office, right? They're rejecting it, right? And that, to your point, Jay, that's like that kind of that old school sort of boomer kind of thing, and they're not on board with that, right? But then there are some things that are like of that boomer kind of era, which I would argue Toy Story would kind of be of that.
Yep.
The first film came out in 1995, but the difference though with Toy Story is that Disney's really good at keeping their franchises relevant through their theme parks and various avenues. So Toy Story doesn't feel like a 90s era franchise. Yeah. It's always been here. It feels like Mickey Mouse, right? It doesn't feel like it's aged. It's not like Felix the Cat that feels trapped in an era, right? Mm-hmm. So Toy Story is very much like, okay, the younger generation is okay with that because Disney's been really good at sort of maintaining the relevancy, right? But the franchises like He-Man, where you haven't heard from this franchise in how long, and they're trying to come back. Yeah, the Gen Xers are like, hell yeah, man, this is awesome. But everyone else is like, we don't care. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely a shift. Go ahead, Jay.
And one of the things I just want to pick up on is like, it doesn't mean, what I'm not saying is that the boomer way of making movies is bad, right? Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like the boomer way of making movies can still make a lot of money. But what we lost for a long time, this idea that we would celebrate independent filmmaking. Like, we haven't celebrated independent filmmaking since the 90s. That's where kind of Tarantino was never technically an independent filmmaker, really, because he was always backed by some studio of some kind. Maybe not on his first film, but I even think his first film he had some studio backing, because I think he was getting backing from Miramax and Weinstein. But
for Jackie Brown, right?
Yeah, for Jackie Brown. But even before that, what was his first one? The one where they're all sitting around talking about whether or not you should tip the waiters. Reservoir Dogs, is that what it was? Wasn't that one of his?
I think it comes out after Jackie.
Did it really? Maybe so. So The point I'm trying to make is this blockbuster mentality is still gonna make money because there's still people that want to see blockbusters. The problem is that all of the films down here that were like you got to see new voices and new people, those just kind of got pushed down to the bottom, and now we're starting to see that I think rise up a little bit more. So I think it's really good for the industry overall. I think it's fantastic. Of course, I'm saying that as an independent
Reservoir
filmmaker.
Dogs was his first movie.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, at least according to Google.
Now let's talk a little bit about Pixar, right? Because Pixar has had a little bit of a hot streak the past 2 movies. Hoppers came out original film, which is great. A modest hit. I don't want to go overboard. It wasn't like crazy good, like, you know. I mean, it did good. I mean, it was the best opening weekend for an original Pixar, I think, since Coco, which was like nearly a decade ago. So that's good. And then Toy Story 5 was just gangbusters, right? Like I think it's a $1 billion movie easily, right? Look, now this might be a controversial opinion, but I'm going to say it. But a lot of people were writing Pixar off when John Lasseter left. They were like, "Nah, this studio they don't have the creative chops to do it now that Lasseter is gone." I have to disagree with that. I think Pete Docter has done a pretty good job at running the studio. Now, look, he had the Pandy and all that going on, right? Which obviously right in the middle of all this stuff in 2020, right? But I mean, he's had a few misses for sure. Not saying it was like perfect, but I mean, I think we're doing pretty good here. And honestly, in terms of John Lasseter, not diminishing his creative genius, because he definitely has the creative chops, but he's been at Skydance now for like a decade. And none of the movies that he's done out of Skydance have moved the needle culturally at all. Nobody really even knows what a lot of those movies even are, you know what I'm saying? And that's not it's not exactly a small studio. I mean, it's you know, I mean, it's Paramount. I mean, and we've seen even when it comes to smaller films like Obsession and stuff, if you make a good movie, people will see it regardless. So he hasn't really done much lately with this. And I think Pixar with Toy Story 5 and Hoppers has kind of shown, hey, you know what, Pete Docter, he's kind of the man. He's doing it. And it kind of gives me a little bit of reassurance because I always feel uneasy when people think like only one person can do the thing. I got uneasy when people would talk about Bob Iger like that. Like, oh, he's the only guy who knows how to run Disney. You know, it's like, okay, we're going to rest the 100-year legacy on Disney on one dude, right? Or even with Pixar, only Lasseter, he's the only guy that can do it. It's like, no.
Can I give you an example as well?
Yeah, do it.
The Russo brothers with the Avengers. I feel like a lot of people think they're the only ones who could do an Avenger movie.
Exactly, Tony. So I'm encouraged by this. I'm encouraged by the Toy Story 5 thing and Hoppers as well. I think Pete Docter, I do like him a lot. I feel like he's doing a pretty decent job at running the studio. But Evan, I know you're a big Pixar guy as well. Like, what are your thoughts on this, man? Toy Story 5 coming out the gate, Hoppers. Are we back on?
I'm happy. It's funny that you brought me back on for this. I think the last time we talked, we were talking about how like people were complaining about comment made from Pete Docter, who was, you know, making some excuses about some of the Pandy movies, you know, like why, you know, they weren't received that well for some reason, which then I also disagree because I think, what was the red one called? Turning Red. Soul, like some of these movies were received well. It's just that, like, you know, they were on Disney Plus. They didn't get the time of day in theatrical, you know, exhibition. But I'm happy because people were also complaining that like, oh, because we talked about it like a year ago, the whole big announcement of like they're doing Incredibles 3, they're bringing Coco back, you know, they got Frozen coming in, which is Disney, not Pixar, but like, you know, they have so many sequels on the way, and people are like, oh, Pixar is all they do is sequels. I'm like, chill. Like every year we're always gonna have at least one original movie. This year we got Hoppers, which I love Hoppers. I'm a huge fan of Hoppers. I saw that twice in theaters. I had a blast. I love Hoppers. I think Toy Story 5 is slightly better. Toy Story 5 really blew me away, kind of surprised me. But next year, I think, is next year Gatto with the cat, with the new animation,
with the Italian cat. Looks really cute.
That looks really cool. The animation is slightly different from what we've seen with Pixar. So they're taking risks in terms of like, you know, this is another original story. This is another creative director who came, I think, from the Pandy movies. I think the director of Gatto did Luca, which I also really like, but that was also a Pandy. Like Pete Docter is giving chances to these directors. I think the Turning Red director is also, I think she's doing something else in the future as well now. I forget what it's called. But like, there's a lot of original stuff at the pipeline that was announced at the Disney CinemaCon press conference. Like, they have original movies coming out each year in the future, and it's kind of like what Jay says, right? Like, in terms of these movies might not make all that money, they might not be a big success. They got Toy Story 5 that they have a Toy Story 5 this year, Incredibles 3 the next, like that can really recoup these movies if the other original movies don't turn out to be that well. But I'm liking what Pixar is doing. Original sequel. It's pretty good. And in terms of like the slate that we've gotten since 2020, it has been mixed. But I'd argue it is slightly a bit more consistent than like the 20. Where do you want to go? Like the sequel era of Pixar, where we were getting like Finding Dory, Cars 2 and 3, Incredibles 2, which I think is a big miss. Like we've gotten certain sequels in like the 2010s era that wasn't really for me. Granted, they had like Inside Out in that era, which is fantastic, and they had some other things in that Coco in that era too. But I've been liking what we've been getting in terms of like original sequel, and getting audiences back. I think this is a big thing for Hoppers, getting audiences remembering to see these movies in theaters. Yes. Elemental was a big surprise because that was like 2023 and people were still coming out of COVID, but they gave it the time of day in theaters. It went on for like the whole summer into August and September. They're getting audiences back to like, okay, wait, I don't have to watch Pixar at home. Like they got kind of conditioned because of the horrible practices and what was going on there. But like, okay, now we're getting used to seeing Pixar, even if it's original, in theaters. I wish people came to see that one Alien movie, which I didn't love, but I thought it was pretty good.
Elio,
which I liked. I liked Elio. It wasn't great, but I had a good time with Elio. But again, people were conditioned to see that in theaters or see that on TV. And kind of the same way when we get to Mando and Grogu too, is like Disney during the Disney Plus thing, it's like they got too reliant on Disney Plus. 4 seasons of Mando, and they expect people to go to theaters to see Mando season 4, which is basically what Mando and Grogu is. Right. But I'm happy that people are now going to theater for original stuff and for sequel stuff.
Yeah, and animation has a big hurdle too, more so than really a lot of the other genres. Well, animation's not a genre. I shouldn't say that. It's more of a medium, but animation though in general is when it comes to like these big studios, they're family films, right? Family films are really tough in the box office right now because it's so expensive to go to the movies. So it's mom and dad and like 2 kids or 3 kids or whatever. You're spending $100 just to walk in the door, right? Where if you have like a rom-com, it's like you and your girl. It's a little bit different, right? So animation has a huge hurdle. And the fact that these movies, like people are showing up in droves to see Toy Story 5 and stuff like that is really, really good for animation. I absolutely love it. Tones Poppy, what do you think? Toy Story 5 Hoppers, is Pixar back?
No, that's exactly what I was going to go the same route you were going. It's the amount of money you have to pay to eat, drink, and watch a movie at a movie theaters with your family is it's gotten a lot more expensive, and you don't know how certain movies and IPs are going to perform at the theater, and doing Toy Story 5 and Hoppers and doing these films are very risky in itself. But Toy Story, I mean, it might be one of those movies that you're going to go see anyway, just because of the name and how, it's affected your childhood and other people's childhoods. And a lot of people, especially, friends and family of mine, they're telling me they're showing their kids Toy Story, their original Toy Story, and they're getting hooked on Woody and Buzz and all the characters. So you're loving to hear, you love hearing about that stuff. You love hearing that these kids are actually showing interest in Toy Story when it was big, back when we were younger, and now it's still big, or it could still be big with that same passing down, watching those movies, So I love hearing about animation doing well. And like you said, OG, the Disney has, and Disney and Pixar are one of the two, or they're the same thing technically, but are owned by Disney, right?
Yeah.
Pixar. They're making those characters relevant because of the parks, which is huge. It's huge for that IP. I'm not sure what exactly they have at Disney when it comes to Toy Story, but they have an advantage when it comes to the parks for those. So I love seeing it. I mean, I love Toy Story. I haven't gotten to see this one. Everyone keeps telling me how it was good, and they were crying at the end, all that stuff. But I want to go see it, and I'm glad that they're showing interest in animation movies once again.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. Jay Shear, before we pivot to our next topic or next movie, actually, what are your thoughts? Is Pixar back? Toy Story 5, Hoppers, they got a little bit of a lot of momentum right now. Are we good, or are we still kind of eh?
You know what? It's a really good question. I think that one thing that we have lost in our discourse about anything is that we have lost a sense of objectivity. And what I mean by that is, like, what are we judging Pixar by? Are we judging them by box office? Are we judging them by, like, whether or not the last random person liked it? Are we judging it based on its Metacritic score or its Rotten Tomatoes score? I think for me, I have a feeling that we will look at the time period that Pixar was not doing well, and there will be people in the future who will be like, those are some of my favorite movies and I loved them. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So I just feel like it's a difficult question to answer, because I feel like, well, in what way are we talking about? Are we saying that there used to be a Pixar magic and every film was beloved by people, and now we're saying that that's not true? Because Evan already pointed out that's not objectively true. There's been times when Pixar was doing great, but people didn't like one film or another film. I will admit that I did not love a lot of the Pixar films during the pandemic era. I don't know that was Pixar's fault. The pandemic era was a really difficult time to make movies, for one thing. It was also a very difficult time for people to enjoy things. You know what I mean? Like, it was hard to enjoy things during the pandemic. If you track consumer sentiment, it must have been people were the least happy during the pandemic, right? Like, nobody was happy. So I think it's a very difficult question to answer, and I think that we would need some sort of objective measures to say whether or not Pixar was back on track. I'm a big fan of Pete Docter. I do like that you and Evan have both pointed out that they're doing sequels and they're doing originals.
Yeah.
I think back in the day, it felt like they were just doing a lot more originals, and everything felt new and different. Whereas, when you get into like some of the Disney slate, when it's like live action remakes of the thing we've already seen, you're like, this doesn't feel original at all, So I don't like that as much, but I'm rooting for them, because Pixar. Think about it this way: we were all youngsters when the original Toy Story came out. You know what I mean? Like, I think I was probably what year did it come out?
95.
95. So I was like 14 years. I was a teenager. Right?
What was Mr. Webber even born yet? I don't think so.
Bro. Webber was probably not even born yet.
I was 4.
Yeah.
So
You're zero.
I'm a 96 kid.
Oh, that's wild. So that's crazy. That's like legacy brand type stuff, it's pretty cool. So,
and Jay, and to your point, I love what you said about how, like, people looking back, right? Like, decades from now, looking back at these movies and how they'll be perceived. There was some Walt Disney era stuff. Pinocchio did not do good in theaters. Fantasia was not so hot either. You know what I'm saying? But you look, even at Alice in Wonderland, I believe. But you look back now, and these are like legendary IPs. You can't imagine the Disney brand without Alice in Wonderland or Pinocchio, right? And it's like, so sometimes these movies might not necessarily hit hard in the box office or make the money or even be well received with the critics, but they go on to live a life beyond that. And that's also kind of a Disney thing too. Because like we're saying here with the theme parks and stuff, they have like a flywheel like nobody else, and they can really get in there and like pump these characters out through various means, and it doesn't just depend on what happens in the theater. So, but go ahead, Evan.
It's a whole separate conversation when we go to like just Disney, because I think Disney, contrary to Pixar, because Pixar, they have soul, and I love soul, but like Disney animation, I don't know what's going on over there. That's a totally different issue. Whereas like the original stuff, you guys see the trailer for Hexed?
Woo! I sure did.
Oof. It doesn't look that good. What was the one last year with the I don't know if it was last year, but the one with the star.
Oh, Wish.
Yeah.
Wish. That was bad. That was bad. Like that side of Disney is just not hitting it. They're lucky they got Frozen 3 and Frozen 4 back to back coming out in the sooner than later. But like that's the side of Disney where I just wish that like we can get back on track. That needs to get revitalized somehow, some way, without the need for sequels. But yeah, when you guys are talking about like stuff that didn't do well back in the day, Treasure Planet is one of my all-time favorite movies, and that like bombed ridiculously.
Yeah.
But I love me some Treasure Planet. I love me some Atlantis, and back in the day, those were not received well, and they bombed.
Well, and Evan, it's crazy to me, right? Because Disney's on this live action remake kick, right? And they're trying to remake like their biggest hits, Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, right? Why don't they go in there and try to revitalize a movie like Treasure Planet live action? That'd be sick in live action, dude.
I don't know. They don't like money. They don't like good shit. I don't get it. Treasure Planet live action would be incredibly stellar.
You know, one of the biggest problems about the modern day, and this has been a problem for a while, but it's never been a bigger problem, is the immediacy bias. Yeah. Right? Like, we'd like to say something is not good. If you, I'll use a sports analogy instead, right? If you are a head coach of the Lakers and you don't win a championship within 3 years, you're a bum. Yep. Well, but if you take and you look at like John Wooden, one of the best winningest coaches of all time, considered one of the best coaches of all time from UCLA, the dude did not do well for like a decade till he figured out what he had to run and how he had to run it and what kind of people he had to get involved. I think I think it's unfair sometimes to judge films on this, like, did it do well in the box office for this 45-day period that it was released? Because maybe it just didn't find the audience it would needed to find in order for it to be considered a classic. And this is why I think there's so many people, like what Evan is just saying, where it's like, oh, I love that movie from 30 years ago, because the audience eventually found it. They just didn't find it while it was in the theater for that really brief period of time, right?
Right. Well, look at the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I mean, those movies made $1.5 billion, and they are not good at all. So it is very much like, hey, you know what? Like, just because you make a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad movie. And sometimes a movie can flop, and it's great. I'm with Evan. I love Treasure Planet. I think it was a brilliant concept. You know, but
So Shawshank Redemption and Fight Club, two of the they did horrible in the movie theaters, and now they're recognized as like some of the best movies we've ever seen. Yeah.
100%. Okay, I actually have. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit of Mando and Grogu, and then I have something actually from this gentleman on Instagram, Gary V, talking about how we might be going back to more analog stuff, which I want to get before, because I know Jay, you have a heart out. I want to get your opinion on that too. Mando and Grogu, Tones Poppy, I'll start with you. This movie is the lowest grossing Star Wars movie of all time. Now, it also had a pretty small budget. It was like I think with that California that California tax credit, it came out to like 144 million, right? But it's not really making a lot of money, right? And they took this Disney Plus show and they're trying to put a whole season there on the big screen. People aren't really having it. Grogu did his little media tour, which I thought was adorable, but it wasn't enough. What say you, Toms?
So it's kind of concerning in this sense. What happens when we know a Star Wars movie or a Star Wars TV show? We know how well the TV shows have done, but once you transition that into a movie, it doesn't do well. It's really concerning because it is a Star Wars IP, and everyone and it's known as one of the best Star Wars TV shows we've ever seen. But once you put it in the movie theaters, it does bad. It's really concerning. And right to your left, our right, probably your left shoulder, there's millions of those everywhere in people's homes, and you see how much merchandise they've sold over the years, because everywhere you go there's Mando and Grogu all over the place. And they're still can't do well in the movie theaters. It's concerning for the Star Wars, and for me at least, and that's how I see it, because I've loved Star Wars. Every Star Wars movie that I've gone to see has done amazing in the movie theaters. But this one, who's proven that it's a good storyline, can't do well. I don't know what else to say than just I'm concerned about it, and I don't know why that is. To be transparent, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I also am a person who covers movies and TV shows and haven't heard any good things about it yet. So there's that.
I'd have to disagree. I don't think I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned because going into the point I made last time, I think audiences were conditioned to watch Mandalorian and Grogu at home for 3 years in a row. You know, especially during COVID. It was a big hit in 2019. Season 2 came out, I think, a year later, maybe 2021, also around that COVID timeline. And I think this movie would have done well 2023 when Mando was a good show. In my opinion, Mando was already seeing signs of decline, at least in terms of in my opinion, in season 2. But season 3 was not good. And then people come over here and like, okay, now let's see what happens afterwards for a season 4. It's like, I think you're riding a downward wave here from Mando hype. I don't think people were excited for more Mando after season 3. And then you try to say like, oh, now go watch the movie in theaters, not on TV. I think season 4 could have been well, but when you try to say like, okay, now go pay $25 to go see this in theaters, that's when people are like, okay, no, I'll just wait 45 days, season theaters. The big test for Star Wars, because I don't think the skies are coming down because Mando didn't make $400 million. The big test is next year with Starfighter, an original movie in theaters, has no ties to Skywalkers or whatever. There might be a couple lightsaber battles according to reports, but like it's an original story in a galaxy far, far away. It has no ties to a Disney Plus TV series or whatever. Because I think, you know, if you're doing Obi-Wan Kenobi sequel to Kenobi season 1, that would have bombed. You know, you do a whatever TV show Star Wars has been doing. Star Wars TV in general has been hit and miss, right? Like, you know, let's not kid ourselves. Like Star Wars TV in general has been hit and miss. But this is something that Disney has been struggling with since Disney Plus. It's been an anchor for Pixar, for Marvel, right? Like Thunderbolts, Captain America 4, characters that were primarily on Disney Plus try and say, hey, now go out in theaters and go see Black Widow's little sister, who got like, you know, she was in Black Widow, which was kind of a COVID era still movie, but then she also got her kick in Hawkeye or whatever. But then go see Ghost, go see you know, Wyatt Russell's character, the discount Captain America. Those were all characters from Disney Plus. Audiences were like, I don't know these people. I don't want to go see the movie, even though I love Thunderbolt. I think it's a great movie. Captain America 4 is basically a sequel to Captain America Falcon and Winter Soldier, which wasn't received that well. And people didn't go see it because they were like, what's going on here, whatever. So it's just that people are so used to these Disney Plus stories, they're not going out to theaters to see the continuation of said stories. So I think we're going to have to wait for Starfighter, which also comes out in May, I think, last week in May, around the same time as Mandalorian Grogu. And I think if that's received well and that gets a good box office, it's basically Star Wars version of Project Hail Mary. So it has Ryan Gosling, sci-fi and everything. So there's not a lot of excuses if that movie bombs. You know, directed by the guy who did Deadpool and Wolverine, right?
Sean Levy, right?
Sean Levy, who was hit and miss. Deadpool and Wolverine is not that great in my opinion, but like he's a tried and true director in terms of like results, you know, bottom line results to the box office. So if that fails, we're going to be running out of excuses. But I think that can do better than some of the Disney Plus stuff that we've been dealing with for Star Wars.
Well said. Mr. Jay Shear, Mando and Grogu. What's going on?
I did see Mandalorian and Grogu, and I liked it quite a bit. It is, I did like it a lot. However, all of the criticisms of it are accurate, particularly because what we were actually sold, and this is okay. So I've been beating this drum for a really long period of time, but if I think that there will be a case study done that says how to utilize social media and marketing to ruin your brand, and it will be about Lucasfilm, and partially about Marvel as well. And let me walk through why that's the case a little bit before I get to the Mandalorian and Grogu issue, because I actually agree with everything that Evan said. I agree with Tones as well. I agree with both, even though you guys are a little bit on different pages. But I would say that the The reason Star Wars is not performing is primarily because of the vitriol that Lucasfilm stoked in the fan base. And so if you go back in time and you say like, okay, well, there was original trilogy era fans. That's me, right? Like I wasn't born when Star Wars first came out, but these are movies that my dad showed me when I was a kid and said, you'll probably like these movies, right? Then there was the prequel trilogy, which original trilogy fans struggled with, but younger fans loved, right? Like it was just kind of like the generations were moving and they were seeing different things. And then we got Disney. And I think the problem with Star Wars is that people are kind of going for nostalgia in some way, shape, or form. However, brands can't just live in nostalgia. I mean, we talked about Toy Story living in nostalgia. It's done it for a long time. So maybe you can live in nostalgia for a certain period of time. But a brand like Star Wars probably can't do that. They need to break out of that mold a little bit. And as they started to do that, not all of the movies, this is my biggest gripe with the Star Wars people. You'll see people who really like what Disney is doing, and they'll go, Disney is so much better than the original trilogy and what Lucas did. And then you'll find it's even more common, oh no, only George Lucas makes good Star Wars. It's objectively not accurate because if you go back and you say, did you like the original trilogy? Yes. Did you like the prequel trilogy? No. Well, then you're 3-3 on George Lucas. He made 3 hits, he made 3 misses. He's batting 500. You know what I mean? Like, so the problem I have with the Star Wars fandom is that they start to argue about Star Wars, and Star Wars social media accounts and Star Wars marketing specifically started to choose sides. Now, I realize that they were trying to go after 5% of the fans who were truly racist scumbags who do not deserve another Star Wars movie to be shown to them for the rest of their lives. However, they went so hard in the paint on those people that they started lumping in other people that were like, no, those are actually legitimate Star Wars fans. They just didn't like the movie that you just did. They're not being racist about it. They just don't like it. And they chose, Star Wars and Lucasfilm chose to say, we are taking some kind of crazy moral stance when they should have been just trying to make good movies, and you just created such a vitriolic experience within the fandom that you ultimately made people like me who love Star Wars I just don't want to watch it anymore because I don't want to talk to anybody about it. If anyone comes to me and says like, "Do you want to talk about Star Wars?" I'm like, not really. Like there's a handful of people that I'll talk to Star Wars about, and you're probably not one of them. So I think we've lost this because of subjective opinions and loud people on the internet. We've lost all ability to see Star Wars for actually what it is and have healthier discussions about it and let some things slide. And not only that, so that's one side of it, and I apologize for ranting, but the other side of it gets closer to what Evan is talking about. During the pandemic, Disney went to Lucasfilm and said, we know you've never really done any TV shows outside the Clone Wars. Make everything a TV show now because we need to pump up Disney Plus numbers. So go from being a movie studio to being a TV studio. By the way, do it overnight, and you better pump out content as soon as you can because we need to pump up our numbers on Disney Plus. And everybody at Lucasfilm went, we don't make TV shows. We actually don't know what we're doing. And they said, we don't care. Do it anyways. So the level of mismanagement of Star Wars as a brand by Disney, not the content, because we're having a hit rate that's at least as good as Lucas's hit rate. But the level of mismanagement of the brand overall is unreal, to the point where I don't even know that many filmmakers that would want to make a Star Wars film, even though they grew up thinking like that's the thing I want to make is the next Star Wars. So I could rant about it all day long, but I just think it's a mismanagement of a brand at an egregious level.
You're 100% right. Coming from a teacher perspective, whenever I talk about like my favorite stuff, like I'm born on May 4th, I love Star Wars. I'm always like hesitant to talk Star Wars with the kids. They're always going to be like, well, I hate this. I love this. I hate this. It's always an argument when you talk Star Wars. It's never like a fun discussion anymore. I miss that stuff.
Yeah, no, and it kills it because that used to be the fun of Star Wars was like the community and talking about it, speculating like what's going to happen, right? And then you take that out of it, and it's like, oh man,
you only get that once a year or once every other year, Star Wars Celebration. That's when you're like, oh wait, Star Wars fans are cool now, right? But like outside
until the next movie comes out.
Right, until the next movie comes out and people are like at each other's throats. It's wild how Mando and Grogu isn't stoking that because nobody saw the freaking movie. Like, nobody
That's true.
about it because they're like, it's It's a movie.
Did you see it? Did you see it, Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. I do like it more than He Who Should Not Be Named, Rise of Skywalker. Even though, like, I think Rise of Skywalker takes more risks than Mando Grogu, which is a very, very safe movie. The
100%.
risk that Rise of Skywalker takes, I really don't like.
Yeah.
And the ones that Mando Grogu doesn't take, I'm just like, it's cool. Like, Mando Grogu is never a movie that I'll see again. Like, I'm not gonna turn on Disney Plus and be like, I gotta watch Mando and Grogu, because it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian as a character is just so static and stale now for me. It's like, please do something interesting with that character. They just can't, even with Pedro there. It's unfortunate.
Do you think it's too soon that they make the original trilogy, remake it?
Oh, they're never going to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think we got to
You don't
worry
think
about that. It's like worrying about like remaking Jaws or whatever. It's like, it's impossible. But,
One last thing I'll say about the mismanagement that I think is at least interesting is Marvel at least drew upon the comics to make every movie that they were going to make, right? I kind of appreciate that Disney didn't do that they didn't say like, oh, we're going to go into our catalog of things and make a bunch of the novels into movies. I kind of appreciate that, but at the same time, I'm actually pretty resentful of them not taking some of the things that would have made amazing movies that would have united the fandom. A Knights of the Old Republic movie, which is a video game from way back in the day, a Knights of the Old Republic movie, I have not heard a single bad review of that game of all time. It would unite the entire fandom. Whether you're a Disney fan or you go back to the OT, it would unite everybody. So, and the fact that they're just like, no, we're not going to do that is so mind blowing to me. Like, it literally doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
And so I just feel like it's like there's just multiple layers of mismanagement that I just do not understand how it happened.
I don't get, I know we got to go, but it's just like, I agree. Because like, we know what's coming in the future, right? We have the Sean Levy Starfighter movie, but they're gearing up to do like 10, 11, 12. We know they are. Like, go back in the past. Yeah. Go back in the past. Like, I love the books. I think Star Wars, publishing have been very good. I love the High Republic. I'm a big High Republic fan. Those books take place in the past. They veer closer to like the Knights of the Old Republic kind of stuff. Like, just do some stories set in the past. If you don't want to do Knights, then do something pre-Phantom Menace in the movies. People will show up.
Even there's a novel called Lost Stars, which is more in the sequel trilogy era. One of the not only a great Star Wars book, a great novel. Like why would you not say you're going to make that film? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Hey, Evan, doesn't Christian Harloff have a planet on that book? Harloff Manor.
Harloff Minor.
Minor.
Yeah, that was from the second book, Princess Leia, from Claudia Gray. But yeah, I'm like, Lost Stars would be money. It's got romance. It has stakes. It's tense. It's two great fleshed out characters. I've read Lost Stars like 4 or 5 times. I'm a huge Lost Stars fan. Yeah. But yeah.
Now, real quick, because I know Jay, you got a heart out in 15 minutes. I want to touch upon this with you guys because I think this is very, very interesting. Okay, and it kind of touches upon kind of a little bit what we're talking about. I'm gonna play the clip. It's only like 20 seconds, and then we'll talk about it. Jay, I'll start with you because I know you gotta leave sooner. But here we go.
These kids want the 90s. It's not just the fashion, it's the pre-internet era, right? The simplicity, the nostalgia, like, it's so clear. I think this explosion of AI is the precursor to the explosion of analog. I think we're going into a barbell. Stores, malls. I'm thinking about starting a business that brings back drive-in movie theaters. I'm being dead serious. Every time I say it, people are like, that sounds like a good Saturday afternoon. Like, I can feel it. I can feel what's happening, which is, as we keep getting pushed to this unprecedented level of technology, there's a reason music festivals and sporting events and bar crawls and run clubs, and like, we're yearning for it. It's like, it's enough. We've tapped out. And by the way, it's going to be like in 10 years, we're going to do more digital than ever. But I do think, the flip phone and vinyl, and it's clear that we're nostalgic for a reason. Why do you think all these kids want them?
Okay, so Jay, I know I'm dropping this on you like like this is kind of a deep thing, kind of a little bit.
Sure.
I'm dropping this on you like 10 minutes before I gotta leave. But what are your thoughts on what you had to say? I saw that today. I'm like, dude, that's a crazy argument, but he's not necessarily wrong in my opinion. But what do you think, Jay? And then
Well, I bet you Evan has a lot of good things to say about this as a teacher, right? Because because I have a cousin who's a teacher, and he was telling me the same thing, that a lot of his students are sort of like rejecting technology because part of it's because they don't feel like they can believe it anymore, right? We've seen too many cases where the digital world has been manipulated in such a way that it is like, well, I can't tell what true is anyways, but I know that if I go over to my friend's house, that's true, right? So I think that there's something there that's really interesting. I think that's only going to get worse. I think that he's right, though, in saying that we're not going to see a decline in digital, right? So I think what we're actually seeing is we're seeing human beings go, oh, you know what? The technology is actually not making my life significantly better in some of the ways that it was promised to. So therefore, I need to reinvest some of my time in other areas to get back some of what maybe I've lost. Maybe FaceTiming with people. I love doing Zooms with you guys, but I'd rather sit around the table with you and do this. If I, what I mean? Like now it's impractical because we're all in very different places. But so I think that there's a component here to human beings and human brains are always going to prefer other humans, but we can be easily tricked because the brain patterns can be hacked to appreciate other things until we realize that actually does not give us the same satisfaction as the humans do, right? You can have a fake friend online, but it's not quite. I mean, I last time I was out in California, OG and I were hanging out at Universal Studios, right? Super fun, right? Like that being there in person is different than doing this. This is good. That's better, right? So I think that like there's a component that technology will continue to advance, but I do think that people are going to pull back and look for more traditional ways of connecting with other people.
Well said. What are your thoughts, Evan? And then go Tones Poppy.
Yeah, it's a bit more nuanced. I think I teach all grades. I teach 7th through or 8th through 12th. My 11th, 12th graders, I teach U.S. government. They are like that. They are, not writing everything in AI. And they actually, because they have the means, they actually love doing a lot of other things outside of, these Zooms or on our school, Google Meets. And I say that because like I think a lot of our 11th and 12th graders, they are able to do these things that are, or could be able to do these things like drive-throughs, when they get a little bit older in college, bar crawls, as the person said. But unfortunately, my younger kids, I have a younger student, I don't want to say his name, but like it was so hard to get him out of the house. Now I teach online school, and I'm always like, we always have these weekend school activities. Couldn't get him out of the house, but he comes online every single day. And it's so unfortunate because like these kids, they don't have a license or anything. It's not as easy as we were kids back in the day. Like let me ride my bike a couple of neighborhoods down and go talk to my friend. People aren't riding their bikes anymore. But like it's just so hard to get people away from tech, away from digital, away from AI because it's so easy. It's so easy to go on Google Meet and talk to like 5 buddies real quick. It's so easy just to call somebody, go on TikTok, scroll through that for like 5 hours. So it's really unfortunate, but I don't really know a lot of the solutions for the younger kids. Our older kids who are able to drive and have access outside of digital, we don't got to worry about them too much. But unfortunately, those younger kids who have lived through COVID, especially, who are more conditioned now to stream stuff or to find stuff online. When they get older, why change? So it's going to be very difficult to get them out of that habit, but that's on us. That's on like the entertainment industry to create those opportunities that are outside, create more drive-throughs. I mean, I think drive-throughs now would be insanely popular. They're kind of dead, but I think they would be insanely popular nowadays. I think that needs to come back. That'd be a very fun communal experience.
To your point, Evan, my wife and I saw Obsession because the local theater near us has an outdoor theater. So it's not a drive-in, but like it's an outdoor theater where you can just kind of hang out, and it was awesome. Like it was like you were outdoors. You weren't in a black box just watching a movie. There was a bunch of people around, spread out wherever they wanted to because there were no rows. You brought your own chairs. You know what I mean? Like it was like super fun. Awesome. So yeah, to your point, it's totally true.
Well, and the thing too is like, it's crazy because like back in my day, back in my day, like Tones, I think you and I did a video on this actually, like online dating apps and stuff, right? And like kids nowadays, they meet all their friends through online. They even the dating stuff is all through online. But there is something to be said, I think, about kind of exercising your social skills muscles, right? Where it's like, back when I was a kid, like I had to like walk up and talk to the girl, right? Like if we were, you got the club or something, like, hey, like, and it sucks, like you're nervous or whatever. But at the end of the day, though, it helps you through life because you have to put yourself out there like that. Where nowadays it's just too easy, bro. It's just all on the app. It's like there's no skin in the game. It's everything's from like the bed, and you're just like kind of like scrolling and stuff. It doesn't have that same sort of impact. It's not, you don't learn as much about life like you do if you're actually out there experiencing life, right?
Yeah, people don't know social cues. That's a big thing. It's like, people online, they just don't know how to interact socially with people. You can tell somebody who's been online for a lot when they go out in a public space. You're like, oh, you don't know about like personal boundaries. Like those stuff are just like, it seems so normal to us. Like, hey, you don't just like, when you meet somebody, just don't like put your arm over somebody or tap them on the shoulder. It's like, relax a little bit. People don't know these like little hidden things.
No, 100%.
And one of the even more damaging things. Sorry, Tones. But I just really quickly pick on what OG was saying. It also, this goes back to the Star Wars conversation in a way. It also does not allow us to have it allows us to not have relationships where there is inherent conflict in the relationship. Back in the day, you only used to be able to be friends with the people around you. Well, Garrett, guess what? Somebody didn't like the Ewoks, and they're gonna be like, I don't like the Ewoks. Nowadays, people will literally put on their dating apps like, if you don't like Disney Star Wars, then I don't want to date you. I mean, like, just stuff that is like, I'm just making that as a joke. It's hyperbole, but it is so ridiculous, because what it makes us think is that we can't associate with and or even love another person who has a differing opinion than I do, which is the most insane thing. Think of all the people. There's 8 billion people on the planet. The chances you're going to agree with them are not great, right? Like, but it doesn't mean you can't love and appreciate them. Now, there might be some difficult conversations you have to have, and that's hopefully a time where you go, oh, I didn't really realize you could see it that way, and instead of doing this, you come closer together. But of course, no, if the guy doesn't have blonde hair, I don't want to date him. No, if the girl doesn't have, the girl isn't, shorter than 5'5", I don't want to date her. That's crazy town. It doesn't make any sense.
Well said. Tones. Okay, what say you? I mean, like, you meet a girl, she's like, I don't like Game of Thrones. What do you do?
On to the next one, bro. On to the next one. No, honestly, that's amazing to me, because that means that's something I can show her. And
absolutely.
But I kind of want to go to Evan's point, because he is a teacher, and I'm sure he experiences this a lot. Is like, it's so much easier to give the kid the iPad to calm him down, or give the kid the phone to do this and do that. And once they go outside, it's like a foreign language to them. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to react. And one thing that I experienced recently is my cousin just graduated from high school. My uncle and my aunt brought him and his friend over to the city over here, and we went to the casino. Obviously, they didn't go to the slot machines or anything, but we went to go eat at the casino. But instead of my cousin's friend coming to join us, he was too nervous and too scared to come down and interact with all of us. He'd rather be up in the room on his iPad, or playing video games or whatever in the room. And it's like, you start to see that a lot now in our recent days, and people rather just stay at home. Obviously, I'm a homebody. I love being at home, but I love going outside and doing shit. I love hanging out with my friends and family. Obviously, it's a little different for me now, because I live in an area where there's not a lot of friends and family that I have, or friends that I used to hang out with, but I was always at my friend's house. I was getting in trouble because I was at my friend's house too much. Like, you don't see that nowadays, unfortunately. So, but as far as the going to the movie theaters and going to drive-ins, I love that he said that, because there is no drive-ins that you could just go to. You have to literally search it up and look and see if there's one at least an hour away or 2 hours away, and you have to make a trip out of it, because there's not many of them. And that's unfortunate, but I think he brought up a good point. If there's more that you can go to, those things would be filled 100% at all times.
There's a hunger for it. I think you're because there is such a focus on technology and like the bedrot culture, right? That like people now want to actually go outside and like experience life, which is good. You should be doing that, you know? So everybody needs to basically what I'm trying to say is everyone to bring this conversation full
Go
circle.
touch some grass.
Yeah, get off your lily pad, okay? Get off your lily pad and go outside and touch some grass, you know?
And bring Woody with you.
Exactly. But I want to thank you, gentlemen. Always a good time talking with you guys. Really, really fun. I'll start with you, Mr. Tones Poppy. Where can everybody find Tones on social media, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you again, OG and Evan and Jay. Always a pleasure talking to you, gentlemen. Tell the boys over there at OG 55, the rest of them, that I miss them too. Always good talking to you guys. But yeah, catch me at Tones_TV, mostly on TikTok. Like I said, we're gonna ramp back up on YouTube. There's just been a lot going on right now where I couldn't do long form videos, but we're back. We're gonna be back at it with House of the Dragon and some more movie stuff coming up. So go to Tones_TV on all platforms.
There he is, Jay Shear. Where can everybody find Jay Shear on social media, sir?
Yeah, you can check out everything that I do over on How Stories Work with Jay Shear, the YouTube channel. That's where we're going to be posting our next film. We're working on a short film, a horror short film right now, proof of concept for a feature film. Really excited about it. So go check out How Stories Work with Jay Shear. You can find everything on there. Absolute pleasure doing a show with you guys. Evan, it's been way too long. I don't know when the last time we did a show was, but it's been way too long. Love being on shows with you. Always good to have Tones on a show too. Be talking House of the Dragon with him very, very soon. And you got to give it up to the OG 55 for bringing everybody together. Thanks for having me.
I love it. Evan, where can everybody find Evan on social media, sir?
Find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. That's where I talk about all the things that I'll be on. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited for things to come, and hopefully have a great rest of the summer.
There we go. I'll be linking all this information in the description down below. We're going to end the show like we always do with the lovely Miss Me.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and become a member today. Mwah!